For decades, ABBA has represented joy, celebration, and timeless pop music. Their songs have filled dance floors, movie soundtracks, and family gatherings across the globe, creating an image of effortless success. From the infectious energy of Dancing Queen to the emotional power of The Winner Takes It All, the Swedish quartet became one of the most successful musical acts in history. But behind the polished performances and unforgettable melodies stood four individuals navigating extraordinary pressure. While fans admired the glamorous costumes, chart-topping albums, and worldwide fame, the creative and personal realities inside the group were far more complex than they appeared. Among them was Benny Andersson, the quiet musical mastermind whose fingerprints can be found on nearly every aspect of ABBA's sound. Unlike the group's singers, who naturally attracted the spotlight, Benny often preferred the piano bench and the recording studio to center stage. His greatest satisfaction came not from applause, but from creating music that could move people long after the concert ended. Looking back on his remarkable career, Benny has often reflected on the creative process that shaped ABBA's success. His observations reveal that the band's greatest strength wasn't simply catchy melodies or polished performances. It was the willingness to pour genuine emotion into their music, even when life behind the scenes was becoming increasingly complicated. Long before millions of people sang along to ABBA's greatest hits, Benny Andersson was simply a young boy growing up in Sweden with an extraordinary love for music. Unlike many future pop stars who dreamed of celebrity, Benny was fascinated by melodies, harmony, and composition. Music surrounded him from childhood. His family encouraged musical expression, exposing him to traditional Swedish folk music, classical compositions, and the rich sounds of the accordion. These influences formed the foundation of a musical style that would later distinguish ABBA from every other pop group of its era. While disco dominated much of the late 1970s, Benny's musical thinking reached far beyond current trends. He believed that a memorable song needed emotional depth as much as an unforgettable chorus. That philosophy became one of ABBA's defining characteristics. Working alongside Björn Ulvaeus, Benny developed one of popular music's most productive songwriting partnerships. Their creative process followed a natural balance. Benny often focused first on the music, developing chord progressions, melodies, and arrangements that carried emotional weight before a single lyric was written. Bjorn then crafted words that fit naturally within the musical landscape Benny had created. Together, they built songs that sounded wonderfully simple on the surface while hiding remarkable sophistication underneath. Listeners could enjoy the melodies immediately, yet repeated listening often revealed unexpected emotional layers. That ability became one of ABBA's greatest strengths. Even upbeat songs frequently carried hints of longing, nostalgia, uncertainty, or heartbreak beneath their joyful rhythms. Those emotional contrasts rarely happened by accident. They were carefully designed. Those who worked with Benny quickly discovered that he approached recording with extraordinary patience. He wasn't interested in rushing through sessions simply to finish an album. Instead, he would spend hours adjusting tiny details that many listeners might never consciously notice. A single harmony could be revised repeatedly. An instrumental passage might be recorded several different ways before he felt it captured exactly the right mood. Rather than chasing technical perfection alone, Benny pursued emotional honesty. Every note needed to communicate something. Every arrangement needed to support the story the music was trying to tell. This relentless attention to detail became one reason ABBA recordings continued to sound remarkably fresh decades after their original release. While recording technology evolved dramatically over the years, the emotional clarity of those performances remained timeless. Benny also embraced innovation. At a time when many artists relied on conventional recording techniques, he enthusiastically explored synthesizers, layered vocal arrangements, and sophisticated studio production. These experiments allowed ABBA to create lush musical landscapes that felt bigger than traditional pop records. Instead of treating technology as a gimmick, Benny used it as another instrument capable of expressing emotion. That approach influenced generations of producers who followed. Although millions recognized Agnetha Faltskog and Anni-Frid Lyngstad as the faces and voices of ABBA, Benny often remained comfortably in the background. For him, creating the music mattered more than becoming a celebrity. Still, there were moments when that imbalance became difficult. The singers naturally attracted enormous public attention. Magazine covers celebrated their performances, fashion choices, and public appearances. Meanwhile, much of the painstaking musical craftsmanship happening inside the recording studio remained largely invisible to audiences. Benny rarely complained publicly about this reality. Instead, he continued concentrating on what he loved most, building songs capable of lasting for generations. Within the group, he also became known as someone who could steady difficult situations. Creative disagreements are common in successful bands, particularly when four talented individuals spend years working under intense pressure. Whenever tensions rose, Benny often found himself acting as a calming influence. He listened carefully. He searched for practical solutions. He focused everyone's attention back on the music itself. While this role helped preserve harmony within the group, it also carried emotional costs. Supporting everyone else often meant setting aside his own feelings. Over time, that quiet responsibility became exhausting. One of Benny's most thoughtful reflections about his career concerns the way he expressed emotions. Some people naturally communicate through conversation. Others write letters. For Benny, music became the language he trusted most. Rather than discussing complicated feelings directly, he transformed them into melodies. A piano could express uncertainty. A chord progression could capture hope. A carefully arranged harmony could communicate sadness more honestly than ordinary conversation ever seemed capable of doing. In many ways, composing became his emotional vocabulary. This creative instinct helped produce some of ABBA's most moving songs. It also revealed something deeply personal. Music was not simply his profession. It became a safe place where difficult emotions could exist without requiring immediate explanations. Looking back, Benny has acknowledged that composing often felt easier than discussing painful subjects face to face. His piano allowed him to explore feelings that everyday conversations sometimes struggled to reach. That realization offers an important perspective on many of ABBA's recordings. Behind their polished production lies genuine emotional complexity. The joy feels convincing because it exists alongside vulnerability rather than replacing it. Among the relationships that shaped ABBA's story, few were more significant than the partnership between Benny Andersson and Anni-Frid Lyngstad, known to audiences simply as Frida. Their relationship developed naturally through years of working together. Long recording sessions gradually created a bond built on mutual admiration, creativity, and shared ambition. Music became the foundation of their connection. Instead of traditional romance bringing them together, collaboration did. Inside the studio, they understood each other almost instinctively. Outside the studio, however, communication proved more complicated. Their personalities were remarkably different. Frida expressed emotions openly and directly. She brought warmth, spontaneity, and emotional intensity into both her performances and her personal relationships. Benny approached life differently, thoughtful and reserved. He often preferred quiet reflection before expressing what he truly felt. Those contrasting personalities enriched their creative partnership. At the same time, they occasionally created misunderstandings away from the microphones. As their relationship deepened, music increasingly became the place where difficult emotions were expressed. Instead of confronting painful conversations directly, many feelings naturally found their way into songwriting sessions. Lyrics, melodies, and arrangements often communicated what ordinary conversations could not. This creative process produced extraordinary music. It also created an unexpected problem. While songs allowed emotions to be beautifully expressed, they did not automatically resolve the personal issues behind them. Creative success sometimes masked emotional distance. As ABBA's popularity continued growing, professional demands intensified. Recording schedules became busier. International tours expanded. Public expectations rose with every new release. Maintaining healthy personal relationships under those conditions became increasingly difficult. Looking back years later, Benny has reflected that music sometimes became both an expression of emotion and a place to hide from difficult conversations. Creating beautiful songs felt natural. Finding equally clear words during private moments proved much harder. That difference shaped not only his relationship with Frida, but also the emotional atmosphere surrounding the group during some of its most successful years. Ironically, the honesty listeners heard inside ABBA's music often existed because the band members poured real experiences into their work. Heartbreak, uncertainty, hope, disappointment, forgiveness, and longing all became part of their artistic language. Those emotions gave the songs extraordinary depth. The audience may not have known every personal story behind them, but they recognized something authentic. That emotional honesty remains one of the reasons ABBA's music continues to connect with listeners across generations. The melodies are unforgettable, but beneath every chorus lies something even more enduring: the unmistakable sound of genuine human experience. As the years passed, however, another challenge quietly emerged. It wasn't a romantic conflict or a creative disagreement inside the recording studio. Instead, it was a quieter struggle over recognition, identity, and the growing gap between the public image of ABBA and the people who created its music. That silent tension would become one of the most overlooked chapters in Benny Andersson's remarkable journey. As ABBA's popularity reached extraordinary heights during the late 1970s, millions of fans saw a group that appeared unstoppable. Every new album produced international hits, sold-out concerts, and worldwide acclaim.